Imagine you're hiking through a forest. You round a corner, and there it is, a fox. Just sitting there. It looks at you. You look at it. And for a brief, weird, almost magical moment, it doesn't run. You think, does this animal trust me? And then it bolts into the trees. But here's the thing. That question you just asked yourself, that's one of the most fascinating questions in animal behavior science. Can a wild animal actually trust a human? Not a pet, not a zoo animal, a wild one. The answer is going to surprise you. And it might completely change how you think about the relationship between humans and every other creature on this planet. Let's start with something most people get completely wrong. We love to think of animal trust the same way we think of human trust. Like, you do something nice, the animal remembers, and boom, trust is built. But that's not how it works. Animals aren't running some friendship calculation in their heads. They're running a survival calculation. Every single second of every single day, a wild animal is making one core decision. Is this thing going to kill me or not? That's it. That's the whole game. So when a wild animal stops running from you, when it lets you get close, it's not because it likes you. It's because it has decided you are not a threat. And that distinction? Enormous. Here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists have a name for this process. It's called habituation. And it basically means the more a wild animal is exposed to something scary without anything bad happening, the less scary that thing becomes. Think about deer in a city park. Those deer have been around humans their whole lives. Joggers, dog walkers, kids, strollers, all of it. And nothing bad ever happened. So now, they barely look up when you walk by. Are they trusting you? Or have they just turned down the volume on their fear response? That's the question researchers keep wrestling with. And the honest answer is, it's a little of both. Now let's talk about the brain for a second, because this is where it gets wild. Wild animals have an incredibly active amygdala. That's the brain region responsible for processing fear and threat detection. In prey animals like deer or rabbits, this thing is basically on fire 24/7. But here's what researchers at the Max Planck Institute discovered. When certain wild animals are repeatedly exposed to calm, non-threatening humans over time, their stress hormone levels actually drop. Their cortisol goes down. Their heart rate stays lower. Their amygdala activity decreases. That's not just habituation. That's a measurable physiological change. The animal's nervous system is literally recalibrating around your presence. That sounds a lot like trust, doesn't it? Let's talk about the most famous experiment that changed how we think about this. In the 1950s, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev started a secret experiment with silver foxes in Siberia. He picked the foxes that showed the least fear around humans and bred them together. Then picked the calmest offspring, bred them again. He did this for decades. And what happened was honestly kind of eerie. Within just a few generations, the foxes started approaching humans on their own. They wagged their tails. They wanted to be petted. They whimpered when humans left. But here's the twist nobody talks about. These foxes also started looking different. Floppy ears, spotted coats, shorter snouts, curled tails. Sound familiar? That's basically a dog. What Belyaev accidentally discovered is that domestication isn't just behavioral. It rewires genetics, development, and even physical appearance. And it all started with one thing: reducing fear of humans. So what does this tell us about wild animals today? It tells us the capacity for trust, or at least something very close to it, is already there. It's not magic. It's biology. And we see it in the wild all the time when we bother to look. Wild crows in urban areas have been observed bringing gifts to people who feed them regularly. Bottle caps, shiny buttons, little trinkets. Wild dolphins off the coast of Australia approach specific researchers by name, well, by boat sound, and interact with them in ways they don't with strangers. Octopuses in research tanks have shown what scientists carefully call preferential behavior towards certain caretakers, which is just science speak for they like specific humans more than others. These animals are not domesticated. They are not pets. But something is happening between them and the humans in their lives. Now here's the part that flips everything upside down. We've been asking, can a wild animal trust a human? But maybe the better question is, should they? Because historically, the track record is not great. Wild animals that lose their fear of humans don't live longer. They get fed junk food. They approach roads. They walk into camps. Wildlife biologists call this food conditioning, and it almost always ends with the animal being relocated or euthanized. There's even a saying in conservation circles: a fed bear is a dead bear. The animals that survive longest are the ones that maintain just enough wariness. Not total terror, not total comfort. A calibrated, healthy suspicion. So when a wild animal does start trusting humans, it's not always a heartwarming story. Sometimes it's a tragedy waiting to happen. But here's where we, the humans, come back into the picture. Because our behavior determines everything. Wildlife researchers who work with wild animals long-term, people like Jane Goodall with chimpanzees, or the scientists who study wild wolves in Yellowstone, they don't try to tame the animals. They make themselves predictable. Same movements, same schedule, same calm energy. No sudden gestures. No eye contact held too long. No approaching directly. They let the animal set the pace. And over months, sometimes years, the animal makes a choice. Not because it was tricked, not because it was fed, but because the human showed up, consistently, and never gave the animal a reason to run. That's actually a pretty good model for trust between any two beings. So what can we take away from all of this? First, trust between species is real. It's not just something we project onto animals because it makes us feel good. It has measurable biology behind it. Second, trust takes time, and it requires the more powerful party to earn it. Whether that's a researcher with a wolf, or honestly, just you with the neighborhood cat who keeps staring at you from the fence. Third, and this one's a little uncomfortable, sometimes the kindest thing you can do for a wild animal is let it stay afraid of you. Not because you're dangerous, but because the world is. And finally, the fact that wild animals can learn to trust us says something extraordinary about the flexibility of life. Evolution built fear into every creature as the default setting. But it left a door open. A door that opens slowly, quietly, and only when you stop trying to force it. You know what's kind of beautiful about all of this? Trust, at its core, isn't really about love or loyalty or friendship. It's about one creature watching another and deciding, I'll stay. And maybe that's true for humans, too. The next time an animal doesn't run from you, don't reach out. Don't make a sound. Just stay still and let it decide.